Corporate entrepreneurs rarely fail because their ideas lack creativity. They fail because the infrastructure required to deliver those ideas simply collapses under pressure. Heavy reliance on traditional, static paper formats usually creates a more significant constraint than team size or available budget. This image shows the standard toolkit: static document icons like Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, sitting stagnant on a table. They are digital files, but they behave like physical paper. Relying on these metaphors places a hard ceiling on how many stakeholders can meaningfully participate. Every time a detail changes, someone has to manually coordinate the update. You have to save a new file, draft an email, distribute it to everyone involved, and hope they actually read the new attachment. Quickly, version control fatigue sets in. Team members start working off different, outdated files and alignment fractures. The logistical drag of maintaining these files eventually consumes the project. The friction of updating a static document starves a brilliant idea of momentum. Solving this enterprise friction requires looking past traditional corporate software and into the mechanics of a public e-commerce portal. On the For Every Idea digital storefront, you will find a specific juxtaposition. On one side, they offer premium $50,000 systems integration consulting for large enterprises. Right next to it, you can buy a used Dagger Mamba kayak for $550. This inventory forms the foundation of a deliberate digital sandbox architecture. They use the unconstrained public environment of an online store to ruthlessly stress test their web standard technology. Selling recreational gear acts as a live fire exercise. It forces the system to handle real transactions, unpredictable traffic, and completely unauthenticated users. That kayak listing provides the harsh environmental proof required before any paperless technology is trusted to operate inside a heavily controlled corporate setting. There are two distinct sets of physics at play here. The public web is chaotic, unauthenticated, and navigated by anonymous users. In this public setting, the architecture is forced to solve for cross-device compatibility instantly. Public users demand immediate accessibility. If the interface requires instructions to understand, they will simply abandon the page. Contrast that proving ground with the ultimate target state, the controlled, hybrid environment of a modern enterprise. Every lesson learned about user friction and interface durability on the public side is ported over to fortify the internal systems. Inside the firewall, that resilient architecture is integrated with strict corporate identity management and data governance. Surviving the brutal friction of the open internet is the only true guarantee that the architecture will thrive under rigid enterprise governance. How does a corporate entrepreneur actually take their concept and inject it into this hardened web architecture? This document outlines the specific entry point: a fixed-price service called Digital Knowledge Product Reauthoring. At this stage, the client's idea is usually a paperless keepsake. A keepsake is just a digitally preserved file. It might be a scanned sketch or a static PDF. It exists, but it still requires intense manual effort to share. Because the format is static, the author has to manually re-explain the core concept every time a new stakeholder joins the project. To fix this, the idea goes through a critical intervention phase known as an authoring session. This diagram shows what happens during that session. The static file is mechanically transformed into a W3C compliant web architecture built with standardized digital information blocks. The result of this process is a completely new asset class, the paperless product. Unlike a static document, this is a machine-readable, continuously updating web node. The authoring session is the inflection point where a concept stops being a preserved memory and officially becomes a scalable operational asset. The immediate relief of this transformation is that the idea is completely decoupled from static files and lost email attachments. Instead of managing versions, you possess a single authoritative web address of fewer than 50 characters. This workflow illustrates how that single link allows you to instantly propagate updates to hundreds of stakeholders. This massive horizontal scaling requires only a few kilobytes of bandwidth. As feedback accumulates, those lessons learned are automatically integrated directly into the master node without causing version fragmentation. The friction of delivery is eliminated because the web infrastructure handles the coordination, not the humans. The ultimate long-term business value of a digital sandbox architecture is the capacity for compound improvement. This visual contrasts the slow, linear updates of legacy formats against the exponential scaling now possible, comparing a tiny first iteration to a massive 12th iteration. Because the friction to update is zero, every continuous refinement compounds, essentially doubling the structural effectiveness. This chart shows the long-term trajectory. Freed from static format constraints, human learning and machine efficiency combine to scale the idea rapidly. Modern enterprise environments ruthlessly penalize slow iteration and manual overhead. The ability to continuously self-improve an idea via web standards determines whether a project reaches eventual stagnation or exponential momentum.